everybody, welcome along to VSL F1 Tier 1. This is the third to last race of the season. And what a better race to do it. Streets of Monaco in Monte Carlo for the Monaco Grand Prix. And we're racing at night tonight. So my name is Jess Ball, and joining me once again is Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to what could be a very interesting night. A very unique circuit, a circuit we don't see a lot anymore in modern league racing because it's not a very popular circuit, but I love it. I personally love this circuit a lot, so I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be an interesting night.
Yep, it is, and obviously we only have 11 drivers at the moment. Hopefully we'll have more join very, very soon, but that means that plenty of opportunities for people to get points. But it's about driver skill around this track. It does require full concentration. It means that a lot of drivers could take a lot of risks that could end in disaster, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Twisted had a very strong race last time out. It was the sprint race. It was around Monza, and he scored pretty much almost the maximum points, 35 points to his name, and he's pretty much one hand on the trophy right now. 177 points to Cam's 130. There's not much pressure on his shoulders, but if Twisted could win in Monaco tonight, pretty much the championship could be sealed next week.
Yeah, definitely could. He just needs to go into the final round, of course, doesn't he, with, I believe, a 35 or 36 point lead in the championship to be secure as the championship winner. So, yeah, if he's able, even if he doesn't win, even if he can just solidly outscore Cam, he's got a great opportunity of winning the championship with a round to spare, even with the final round, I believe, being a sprint round. So that would just kind of cap off what's been an amazing season, really, for Twisted. He's been incredibly consistent all season long, bar a couple of DNFs here and there through some other incidents. He's been first or second in pretty much every single race, apart from those two DNFs, and that's including the sprint race performances as well. So, yeah, incredible consistency all season long from Twisted. And Cam, his teammate, has been very much the opposite end of the spectrum. He's had a lot of speed. He's probably been, you've got to say, on outright pace, probably the faster of the two drivers, but he's made far too many mistakes throughout the season, and it's cost him big time. So I think this is Cam's last shot really here tonight to really get back in this championship fight. If he can't solidly outscore Twisted tonight, even if Twisted does get beaten by Cam, it's still going to be a long shot for Cam to win this title. So yeah, Cam really has to do some damage tonight.
We may have to start doing permutations sooner rather than later, it looks like, if Twisted does well tonight. But yeah, we got those two that we talked about. But Yarham is the closest challenger on 94 points, but mathematically is out of championship contention. Matt's in fourth on 86, and we got Ewan, Kieran, GMAC, Casper, and Keza. Some of them obviously not here tonight. There was quite a few incidents in the stewards. We'll go a little bit more about that in further detail later on as well, because we want to spread positivity as well. So this is the track map. You can see it right now. Been on the F1 calendar since 1950. 3.3 kilometers long, 19 turns, 7 to the left, 12 to the right, and it's one of two tracks that has a FIA exception to it, that it can be shorter than 3.5 kilometers. The other one on the longer side of the spectrum is obviously Spa, 7.004 kilometers. So yeah, this is going to be no track shorter than Monaco, unfortunately, but that's why we're seeing obviously a longer laps, like 39 laps, instead of obviously the 20, 30 that we're used to in Formula 1 quite usually at the moment. But we are in qualifying at the moment, and it is GMAC that is fastest with a 1:11.6. I do expect times to be quicker. Cam has got a quali ban due to his incident last week that he did own up to. He did apologise to people in the chat, even apologised to me as well. He didn't have to, but he apologised to me anyway. But he owned up to it. He's got a quali ban. He's going to be starting at the back of the grid. Probably the best track to start at the back of the grid, really, because potentially you can avoid the carnage. You want to ideally either start first or near the back. You do not want to be starting in the middle, but it may not matter with these little drivers.
Yeah, and to be fair to Cam as well, this track is one of those tracks that benefits people doing something different strategy-wise, so sometimes starting at the back is not a bad thing. I mean, personal experience, I've started at the back at Monaco before and still been able to finish inside the top 5, so there's definitely possibility there. And of course, this track is there's so many places to make mistakes. A lot of drivers can make a lot of mistakes at Monaco because it is such a difficult circuit. So here's to say that Cam could run around at the back the whole race, but gain just 5 or 6 places based on people picking up damage and having to pit. So yeah, plenty of opportunities still, even from the back of the grid for Cam, especially with a smaller field as well. But one thing he is going to have to keep in note as well is the famous issue with this track, which is why some leagues don't use it, is because I don't know if they fixed this, but my understanding is it is still pretty much impossible for a safety car to come out here at Monaco. That has been the case on the F1 games for at least 3 years now, where the safety car just does not want to come out at Monaco, even if it's on the highest settings. So I believe that is still an issue, which is why some drivers don't enjoy this track and why this track can be very spread out in terms of the field, because if you do make a mistake, you're not likely to get the safety car to help you get back into contention. So this race is often about not potentially who's the outright fastest, but who's the smartest when they come into the pit lane and who is able to keep it out of the barriers for longest. So will definitely be interesting. And it's also interesting as well because this track is so unique compared to everything else, even compared to all the other street circuits we now have in Formula One. It is incredibly narrow. It is obviously a lot shorter, like you mentioned. It's a lot of low speed corners as well, with some high speed thrown in at the end, but because of that it is so unique, and you find often some drivers who are Monaco specialists and other drivers who really struggle. So on my end, I am definitely a Monaco specialist. This is the kind of track I absolutely love. So you're going to see some interesting people, or some new people maybe at the front of the field, as Finley's gone to the top of the time sheets on an 11 flat on his third lap on that set of soft compound tyres, which suggests he's got quite a bit of fuel in that car and is just getting embedded into the circuit, which we'll see quite a bit. Kieran though, P2, 11.3, and he's on a medium, so that suggests to me that Kieran is one who's already feeling pretty confident about the circuit, and he could be right at the front of the field tonight.
Yeah, don't forget he got his first win a few races ago as well. He was the reigning champion from last season. Unfortunately, he won't be the champion this season, but sure he won't mind just a little bit as well. Don't forget there was a few races this season where he has raced well on a pad, so he wasn't up to obviously the pace he was on his original wheel anyway. But to be honest, his pace in round 7 definitely showed why he deserves obviously to be here in the top tier. He scored 18 points in Monza as well, had a good race there as well, even though he got involved in some of the carnage, but he managed to pick up points here and there as well. So he goes into the pit lane. There's a few people about to start another run or go again. So I think we've got Finley that's been on 3 laps. Tech 31 Racing is another driver that's been on 3 laps as well. He's done a 1:11.4, so that surely suggests that they may not be using the softs as much during the race. But don't count your chickens, because I have seen some situations where people have had their front wing and that's the only damage, and that's the only tyre that they can use for the rest of the race, like from about lap 30 onwards. So yeah, I hope Tech doesn't have to use his tyres again as well, but can be a 1-stop, can be a 2-stop, could be a million stops that these drivers are going to make. I wonder how many front wings we're going to see as well. And a few corners I would like to mention on getting a good lap. Casino Square as well, getting around Casino Square is quite important. Mirabeau, Hotel de Paris is quite important. Getting a good run out of the hotel, the tunnel into the chicane, into the back, that's quite important as well. And Twisted is already proven that he's carrying some good speed in towards Mirabeau now, as he heads towards through 48 and then heading in towards the tunnel. So we're starting to see times in the 110s already, but we're on board with our championship leader, heading past the Grand Hotel, heading towards the Nouvelle chicane, heading towards turn 10 and 11, through to back now of turn 12, and then you're going to be heading towards turn 13. Make sure you avoid the wall through here, but it's quite difficult. Then heading towards the infamous swimming pool chicane as well, where I have lost some floor damage there when I was running simulation damage in one league. I don't think you can in standard, but you never know, they could surprise us. So Twisted then, can he beat Ewan's 110.7? Well, he can. He's pretty much matched it by a few hundredths of a second. So Twisted, the fastest guy out there on the circuit at the moment. Nobody else is improving at the moment. A few people are backing off a bit, but Twisted the benchmark right now.
Yeah, as per usual, kind of been the way all season long, hasn't it? He is the benchmark, but Duran's right up there, like you mentioned. One thing as well to note about this track, because this track is so short, you even on the smallest amount of fuel setting, you can get a couple of fast laps out of one set of tyres and out of one very small tank of fuel. So you may see people do a fast lap and then back off and then do another fast lap, or you may see people do what Casper's doing, which is going for 2 warm-up laps. So he is backing off a little bit and going again. Oh, actually, no, he's slowing back down.
Invalidated.
he's invalidated now, so he's backed off completely. He was going for another run, but he's decided not to now that he's invalidated, and he's going to go almost into the pit wall, but he's managed to just about stick it into the pit lane. So we'll see what other drivers are doing on their laps at the moment. Finley's just starting his next lap in the session. Waitsy, I think, is coming across the first sector split. He's 8/10 down, so he is not up on his time. GMAC is also backed off, so some drivers not on fast laps at the moment, it seems. They are just on kind of bankering laps, setting up laps for the rest of the session, so we'll see what they can do a little bit further on. That's kind of the issue with having so few people in it being a short track, is that the quali laps are over pretty much before they've got going, and sometimes we miss them, so we've got to be eagle-eyed in this qualifying session to see who's on the lap. One person who is on a lap is Tech 31. He has just started lap as well. Finley's first sector, not particularly great. It looks like he's backed off from my end, so I think he will be waiting to go again. So we'll see what Tech 31 does through the first sector, and he does an 18.9. He's a 10th down on his personal best in the first sector, and that was 2/10 down on what Twisted managed, so already not a great start to the lap. And this is another track as well that, despite it being so short, because there's not really a single break in the corners, even the straights are curved in some manner, the tyres can overheat quite a lot here. It can be very difficult to manage tyre temperatures on top of everything else that you've got to manage here at Monaco. So making sure that you can keep the tyres bedded in for a full lap without overheating the fronts or the rears can be quite difficult, especially through the final two corners through Raskas and obviously the final corner as well. So it can be very difficult. But good middle sector from Tech 31. It's 3/10 up on his personal best, but that was actually nearly 2/10 up on what Twisted managed in the middle sector. So good middle sector from Tech 31. We'll see what he can do for the final part of the lap. Maybe he's one of those drivers backing off a little bit in the first part to save a bit for the end of the lap as he comes across the line now, and it is a 1 minute 10.7, and he does go faster. So maybe proving my point that he's saved a little bit in the first half of the lap to make sure that his tyres are still good for the end of the lap.
Matter's just about to start his lap in 11th position at the moment. I think we just saw someone else cross the line. I think that was one of the McLarens. That was Kieran in P2. So he's in the 1:10.7s as well. 4 drives in the 1:10.7s, and Finley's not that far behind either as well. I do believe it's Yarham up to the line next, but he's on medium tyres, and he's going again, which probably explains it. They do not have long to set laps here as well, and there is an interesting fact about who got the pole most times around Monaco. It was Jim Clark, took pole in Monaco 4 times, never claimed victory around this track as well, and Charles Leclerc has the honourable title of the Monaco curse, because he never seems to finish his home race. The only time he did that was 2018. Every other race he's pretty much DNF'd or failed to start. I think he failed to start in the 2021 Grand Prix, and that was memes, I think, on F1 on the 2022 edition. It could have been the same, but it wasn't. It was just people retweeting a few years ago tweet, which that was kind of interesting, to say the least. Maybe Charles Leclerc can get rid of his curse in real life, or maybe he can just continue to DNF. We will say the Charles Leclerc fans are going to hate me now, but anyway, off topic. We've got Casper on a run now as he heads towards the tunnel. He's set a 1:11.4 as well. You can carry a lot of speed through the tunnel. We've seen, I think, a few cars, run out of fuel here as well. I think there was one of the races where a driver does not want to win. And Damon Hill, I think, suffered engine issues in the tunnel too. That allowed Olivier Panis to secure his one and only Formula 1 victory back in '96 as well. He was the pretty much one win race wonder around Monaco, and we saw the Trilly train as well. We saw a lot of things happening as well, and there was a long period of time where we saw Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna being the only drivers to ever win the Monaco Grand Prix. That was from 1984 to 1993, so quite a long time as well. So yeah, that's some interesting facts about that at the moment, as Casper heading toward, I think he's not pushing on his lap. No, but he's not. An interesting fact about McLaren, by the way, they've led more laps of the Monaco Grand Prix than any other team, which 916 laps. Could they lead some laps tonight? Well, the only one that's looking likely is Kieran. Twisted, though, he's on a lap as well. Let's hope he doesn't have the Damon Hill curse of 1996 tonight as he heads through the chicane into Tabat.
Yeah, head towards the back now. Good first sector, slightly up on his personal best as he heads through the middle part of the lap now. He's 2/10 up, so he's finding a bit more time. It is Twisted on this lap. He's also gone out a little bit early, I think, just to give himself some time in case he did make a mistake, or whether he wants to go again on this same set of tyres as he heads through Raskas and into the final corner. Around the final corner, obviously so easy to get unsettled because it is off camber as he heads down towards the line, and it is a 1 minute 10.6. So he lost a little bit of time in the final sector on his personal best, but it is still an improvement and twisted back to the top of the timesheets. Can anybody respond? Waitsy's had a very good first sector down in P6, a 0.6 in the first sector. That is a strong first sector from the Alfa Romeo driver. He's not had the greatest of seasons. He's kind of been up and down all season long pace-wise, and when he has had the pace, he hasn't quite been able to get the results to match. So Waitsy, one of those drivers looking for a strong end to the season, as I think he almost hit the wall on the inside of the Nouvelle chicane there. I didn't quite see if he did or not. I think he might have done because he's immediately backed off. So I think Waitsy there, just as we were bigging him up after a great first sector, turned in slightly too early to the Nouvelle chicane and clipped the wall, which is so easy to do. It's kind of deceptive how early you can turn in, but then sometimes you kind of get the car ready for it, and then you end up hitting it with the rear wheel because you've turned in so early. So yeah,
he's backed off.
Yeah, he's backed off. He's going to go again. He's got enough time to go again. I don't think he picked up any damage, but more than anything, that little tap with the ball put him completely offline through the chicane, and that, of course, is going to ruin your momentum all the way through the fast section of the tobacco and the swimming pool. So, yeah, not a great start to the final runs for Waitsy, but he has got more time to go again. Just trying to see who else is on a lap at the moment. I don't really see. Juwen's had a good first sector. He's found a 10th in the first part of the lap, but Finley is on a flyer. His only problem is he's going to get blocked here by the McLaren big time. Yes, he is. Casper's blocking him all the way through there, but he's dived into the pit lane. Hopefully that hasn't cost Finley too much as he comes up towards the line. Finley crosses the line now, and it's a 10-1. Brilliant lap time, puts half a second on the field, and I've got to say, without that block into Raskas, there's maybe even a 1 minute 9 in that lap time for Finley. That is a mega lap time.
That is something I was not expecting, but I have to say, Finley is a god of starts. He was a god of starts around Monza, but there were some times where he was very unlucky. Twisted is going to go out for one final lap. I think him seeing that Finley's on poles probably put a lot of pressure on Twisted a little bit, but he knows that Finley is not his rival at the end of the day. His rival is his teammate, and he's starting at the back of the grid. Anyway, we got Kieran, who is up in the first set, so he's about 4 times up. Waitsy has retired from the session. Ewan, unfortunately, has backed off, so he's not going to improve. What can GMAT do? He could do nothing because he invalidated. Yarham, he's found 6 temps in that middle sector. That's only going to put him, I think, into the 1:10.7 for the likes of Ewan and Kieran in P5 and P4, but he's going to finish a lap anyway, so what can he do? P3, I was close, 1:10.6. We've got one of the McLarens out on a lap as well. He's 3 temps up in at the middle sector, so not quite enough to reach Finley's lap time at the moment. And Twisted is still going through the tunnel at the moment, so we'll see if he's improved in just a second. But Kieran, up to the line. Can he get pole? No, but he stays second, so good lap time for him. Twisted is not going to get pole. He has unfortunately invalidated his run. Tet 31 Racing. Let's see how much time he finds in that tunnel. He almost hit the wall once again, which shows how difficult that wall is. You can invalidate there as well. And I was going to say earlier on that a track is just so hard to invalidate. They invalidate left, right and centre. So Tet 31 Racing has only improved just a little bit on that run as he heads towards Raskas into Amphinode. And it looks like he's probably going to stay where he is in P5, unless he could have a miraculous final sector. 1:10.9 puts him in P3, I believe. Yeah, P3. So, a surprising pole position from Finley there as well. P13 in the championship. Scored pretty decent in round 9. It's round 10 tonight. Maybe this is the race where he can shine. This is your order, by the way. And Casper was the last one to set. Casper was the last one to set a lap time. The top 7 within 9/10 of each other.
Yeah, fairly close in the mid part of the pack as well, from Tet 31 down to Juwen. Very close times there, but yeah, great lap time on the ball from Finley, comfortably clear the rest of the field, and solid time as well from Kieran to put him on the front row, but still 3/10 off. So brilliant lap there from Finley in the end, and he was going for a second run before he spun at the final corner, and even his second run he was 2.5 tenths down, but that still potentially could have been enough to put him on pole anyway. So yeah, Finley looking really strong, and that is with a time where he was quite clearly blocked in the final couple of corners of the lap as well. So I don't think Finley will be too aggrieved by that block, because in the end it didn't affect his poleig position whatsoever. But I mean, without that block, you've got to say potentially that was a 1:09 on the board there for Finley. So yeah, looking very, very strong. But now it's the case of, can he hold that pace for 39 laps in a row. It's going to be a very different challenge now.
Yep, it is. It's about consistency. It's about not hitting the wall. You can be fast, but like you were saying earlier, it's the people that avoid penalties and avoid hitting the wall will be the ones that succeed. Remember Daniel Ricciardo, for example, as well, when he was trying to hold up people with a low-powered engine, believe it or not. So anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does. A few things to mention about this circuit as to which corners to watch out for once again as well. Don't forget Raskas as well, can be quite tricky. It's a narrow pit lane as well to watch out for as well. Sandevot, you know when Jeff used to say there's no heroics into Sandevot, we're definitely going to get that tonight. Always tight, only DRS straight on the circuit. It is a 90-degree right-hander, so they need to nail the long run up to the hill into Casino, otherwise they're going to struggle a little bit. Barrage as well. It's easy flat in modern F1 cars, but you have to dab a little bit on the brakes, maybe to third gear as well. New Bell chicane as well. We could see a few overtaking spots and a few penalties. And watch out for the swimming pool as well. But already, we are going to get into the race then and look at tyres. And just like we've seen in previous races, we've got a mixture of strategy. Top three, which is Finley, Kieran and Tetfay1 Racing, are on mediums. Twisted is on hards. Yarham and Ewan are on mediums. Wait C is on hards. G-Max on mediums. Casper's on mediums. Cam, who's starting at the back along with Mata, they're both on the hard compound of tyres. Now, obviously, if I was any of the drivers, personally, I would start on the mediums because I know that I would have to pit for one of the tyres anyway, so it makes sense if I start on the softer tyre to try and make my way through the field, if there's carnage, for example. But there's people that are very brave going on the hards, thinking that they're not going to have any damage to their front wing, but I could see their logic in it, and it's nice to see a mix of strategy.
Yeah, definitely it's nice to see a mix of strategy. It's, as we always see in VSL, always seeing people on a mix of strategy. I think just because this kind of track and this kind of racing suits my style, I like this kind of management racing, I would probably go for the hard compound tyres. I think knowing that there's not going to be a safety car in this race obviously takes that kind of element out of it, of there potentially being an early safety car ruining your strategy. So I would go for the hards, hope the people on the mediums make mistakes and go long, and then have the much better tyres at the end. So we'll see how it pans out. It's seen it so many times this season, though, that starting on the medium actually works out in your favour. But that's usually because we see someone in second or third starting on the hards. That's not really the case this time. Twist is the only one that's done something different inside the top six. So going to be very interesting, the strategy call.
82 different drivers that stood on the Monaco Grand Prix podium. Is who's going to get on the podium tonight? We'll have to wait and see. 5 red lights are on, and it is lights out, and away we go. And the Alpine of Finley has got a very good start. Tetfay1 Racing has got a good start as well. So they all make their way through Sandevot. There was a few people clipping the curb there. It's 3 wide in the background between Ewan, Casper and Cam, I believe, as well, as Cam has backed off, it looks like. So he must have made an error there as well, but already Finley is loving life at the front. Kieran staying in third. A few people dropping out of position from their starting position. Twisted is down to 5th place. Yarham's overtook him as well. Waitsy is up to 6th place. They all make it through the mirror, but a hairpin unscathed, it looks like. Yes, it does. It does help when there's less drivers around them. They've got even pace at the moment, but yeah. Finley lightning off the start. Tetfay1 Racing, you don't usually see him have good starts, but he's delivering tonight at the moment.
Yeah, starting on the inside seemed to pay off a lot there. The two drivers in the front 2 rows on the outside line just did not move off the line at all. Kieran did not get a good start, and neither did Twisted on the hard compound tyres. But for Twisted, I don't think that's too much of a worry. He's let the medium runner through in Yarham. He's got Waitsy behind on a set of hards, so Twisted now can settle into a rhythm on those hards and see what he can do. Maybe he can keep up with the medium runners in the early phases. We'll wait and see. But yeah, Finley, great start, great launch off the line, great start for him as he leads at the end of lap 1. But yeah, like you said, great start from Tet31 and taking advantage of Kieran being sluggish off the line. But all clean throughout the rest of the field. By the way, that little incident at the back for Cam, I think Mata overtook him on the inside of the corner rather than actually on the circuit. So I think that was just Mata trying to let Cam through after Cam maybe ran a little bit deep into the corner. That's why they've both backed off. But already straight out the gates, they don't look particularly confident in their car, but they are on the hards. So it should come back to them a little bit later on. So we'll wait and see what they can do. But now we enter the phase of everybody managing themselves. It's almost because of the lack of DRS and the fact that DRS is kind of a non-factor around this circuit. We are now immediately into the phase of the race where people are going to start saving their tyres and saving their front wings.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? No one seems to me that they've got damage, but I think Kieran got very, very close to 31 Racing into the Nouvelle Chicane as well. Oh, and I spoke too soon. Commentator's curse number 1, as Tech has just grazed the wall there near the swim pool chicane, and I think he's got a bit of damage because he's let Kieran through. Is Tech going to dive it into the pits? Yes, he is. So already our first front wing change of the session, even though it's quite minor. I'm guessing he's going to pit anyway, but I've even had the minor front wing damage. I think I had yellow front wing damage at one point, but I was still able to keep going for at least, I think, about 5-6 laps before I realised I was losing a lot of time and going into the pit. So it's one of those tracks where it doesn't really matter. You don't lose that much time, but it's about over time, really, rather than just one lap. Do you got to think about as well? But gap to the front between Finley and Kieran is increasing. This is a habit that we're starting to see with whoever leads into turn 1 gets a brilliant gap in the first few laps. We saw it with Twisted last week, and we're seeing it with Finley this week. It's crazy to see how brilliant pace he's got at the moment. He was involved in some incidents last week, but definitely he's holding his own at the moment. And I think he took my advice of qualifying on pole quite literally, because the best place to start is on pole, and he was on pole. So he's increasing the gap even more as well. Gap is starting to spread out a little bit, but one driver that's looking quite close is Casper on the back of GMAT, and Ewan on the back of Casper as well. I think we could see a train, develop for a long period of time, and because of this, they'll be saving a lot of their battery to make sure they can get to the pit stop phase, and it is even increasing to the back of Ratesy as well. So I wonder if Ratesy's struggling on those hard compounded tyres, or maybe just the mediums being a lot faster.
Yeah, I think especially straight out the gates on this high fuel, you're going to want the confidence in the medium compound tyre, aren't you, just to give yourself a little bit of I guess, self-confidence in these early phases of the race, being on the hards around a track, obviously, with a lot of elevation change, very narrow. You've got no margin for error, so starting on the hards is a big risk. But Twisted and Waitsy so far seem to be managing it pretty well. Cam struggling a little bit to kind of keep up with the drivers around. He's now 3.5 seconds behind Ewan, and Matter is slowly reeling him back in after a mistake a couple of laps ago. So that is one thing to note, that Cam at the moment on these hards doesn't look all that strong. But of course, still a very long way to go in this race. And of course, for Tech 31, obviously gutting about that damage, but also, again, like I mentioned, still a long way to go. And with how big the gaps in the field were in qualifying in the end, there's definitely a chance that he could catch a lot of these hard runners, potentially Cam and Matter, before they even make their pit stop anyway. We know Tech 31's got good raw speed around here. Cam and Matter don't seem to have that same confidence. So there's every chance that that Tech 31 could still drive himself back into contention in this race. It is such a long race. So yeah, long way to go for Tech 31. It is definitely not over. And of course, still be scoring points anyway. So nothing to really worry about for Tech 31. He just needs to get to the end of the race. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on what he's doing at the moment and see how fast he is. GMAC is right up behind Waitsy, but of course can't make a risky move at Monaco. This is not the place to do it. You're going to end up putting someone or yourself in the wall if you do, and it's just going to make it look silly. So I think GMAC's just going to sit behind Waitsy until Waitsy either makes a mistake or until he has to make his pit stop, or an obvious opportunity for an overtake comes through. But of course, that is not going to be very easy at a track like this. All that Waitsy really needs to do is just keep it in the straight line in the traction zones, and he should be fine. So yeah, Waitsy here could be a bit of a roadblock for these medium runners behind, which is again why I kind of struggle to see why these drivers at the back of the field went for the medium compound tyres. I think if you're at the front, absolutely go for the mediums. You've got the pace as Kieran, first driver with a 3-second time penalty around Monaco at the Nouvelle Chicane. But yeah, I think at the front, if you're starting at the front, starting with the mediums definitely makes sense because you've got the clean track to pull away in. But if you're at the back of the field, starting on the mediums to me makes no sense because you can't use the mediums to pass people because there's not the room to do it. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why GMAC, Casper and Ewan went for these mediums. I'm sure they'll obviously benefit from an earlier pit stop, but then who knows, they could get damaged. And speaking of damage, GMAC's just hit the wall on the inside of Anthony Noj. And that is the worst place to hit the wall because he's now got to do a full lap with a potentially damaged front wing on that Mercedes. You see him through the first corner. Actually, it doesn't look too bad as Casper gets a horrible run as well coming out the first corner. Here comes Ewan trying to go side by side up the hill. Can he go round the outside through the casino section? No, he can't. Casper blocks him off, so Casper gets away with that mistake. But that is one of the only ways you can overtake you is if someone makes a mistake, and Casper got pretty lucky there.
Yep, he did, and I think GMAC got very lucky as well because I think he just avoided getting severe damage to his front wing. I think if it was front wing damage, it would be minor, but he's probably going to wait for a couple of laps, see how it is, and then if he loses time, he's going to pit. And it's probably maybe a bit of line damage that he's got at the moment, but he's off speed time on the straight. I think you can tell he's lost a bit of wing there because you gain a lot by running a low downforce on some parts of the circuit, and he's around about 7/10, and even Cam is catching up to him at the moment. Speaking of position changes, not much position changes for some of the drivers. Casper up 3, Waitsy up 2, and Yarham up 2. Pretty much Twisted, Kieran and Finley stay where they are. Cam and Mata have gained 1 place. GMAT stay where they are. Biggest lose, obviously, Tetfei 1 racing down 8. Obviously, he was the first driver to get damaged. Waits, he picks up a time penalty as well, which is not ideal, as we saw Ewan fighting Casper past Sandevot, and he got it before the Casino Square section. So Ewan basically tried to do a different thing to what he did the last lap, and it paid off for him. And we know Casper's going to go for it as a driver he is as well, and he's going to see if Ewan makes a mistake. I think there's certain drivers that try to force them into a mistake without obviously colliding into anyone, and that's sometimes what you got to do in Monaco, as well as relying on some people to make a mistake. Obviously you don't want to make mistakes yourself, but I think on one hand, if someone spins, you're probably going to be very, very relieved. There's 5 seconds is the gap between Finley and Kieran at the moment. He could probably take his foot off the pedal if he wants to for a little bit and save a bit of tyre life, but we'll make sure he has plenty of fuel to get to the end at least as well. But this battle for the midfield is going to get very, very interesting. I think all Ewan and Casper and GMAT, they've all made mistakes in the last few laps. I think it could be even Stevens coming up soon.
Yeah, definitely could. And I think for Dewin, that's pretty much a repeat again. Casper seemed to just outbrake himself into turn 1 for the second lap in a row. So Dewin that time around was able to capitalise on it quite nicely. So yeah, not too bad stuff there from Dewin. He's immediately onto the back of Waitsy, but that is the problem again with Monaco. He's made that move. His upper players wanting to get on with it, and he's immediately on the back of a hard runner who's not got the pace at the moment. So going to be a bit difficult now to see. And he's got to hope now that Waitsy could also make a mistake that he can capitalise on and get through and get into some clean air before he ends up being attacked from behind again. So yeah, Dewin, I think a little bit, that's the obvious frustration with Monaco, and that is why qualifying around here is so incredibly important. And yeah, back to our leader. What was I saying earlier on about some drivers just gelling with tracks and some drivers being Monaco specialists? I definitely think Finley is a bit of a Monaco specialist, because the thing is with this level of pace performance is that because he has got so much performance on the rest of the field, he can feasibly just now completely back off and not have to worry about being caught and play it very safe, and that's only going to make him more dominant because he is less likely to make a mistake through that. So, and at the moment he has got the second most DRS out of anybody at the top. Kieran's got more, but Kieran also has a very feisty Yarham right behind him in his DRS zone, using that ERS down the pit straight, but not close enough. Yarham's got to be careful here. He doesn't burn. Well, I say he's got to be careful. He's already burnt up his ERS. The problem with Monaco is that because you're going so slow for most of the lap, it's actually pretty difficult to resave your ERS here because there's not that many really heavy braking zones. They're all actually quite short in the end. So Yarham's got to be careful that he doesn't waste too much of this trying to fight Kieran in front, especially if it's not fortuitous. So I keep an eye on what Yarham does, but you can clearly tell he's a bit faster than Kieran at this point in the race, but just doesn't have the track position to go with it. And keep an eye on Twisted in P4. He's starting to level out that gap a little bit between Kieran and Yarham. It's kind of hovering around 2.5 to 3 seconds at the moment now. So we're getting to that point of the race now where the mediums are going to start falling off a little bit in pace and the hard tyres are just starting to come into their right window.
Yes, and I think we will see the true pace of Twisted once those hards get into that operating window more than the medium compounded tyres. Hards could do a lot of this race. It can do 30 laps. So pretty much, if Twisted could stay out a bit longer, he could potentially go on softs at the end if he could pull that gap later on and maybe get into the lead. Or if he wants to play it safe, going on the mediums. All he's got to worry about is Cam in this championship. He's not got to worry about anything else. But he's also got to think about the constructors at the end of the day as well. Ewan, by the way, is in the pit, so he must have made a mistake at some point. Nope, it's strategy. It is strategy, ladies and gentlemen. He was on mediums, and now he's going on to the hard compounded tyres. Now, I was expecting people to come in if they started on the softs. No one started on the softs. If you start on the softs, you would go into the pits around about now, till the end. but not on the mediums. You would wait till around about lap 17 to go onto a set of hard tyres. Not now, but hards can get to the end from here, so not a bad strategy call. I would question it, obviously, if it's tracks like Austria when you're pitting reasonably, like, a lot earlier, but Monaco is a place where you can get away with pitting slightly earlier if you start on the medium tyres. And Yarham, by the way, has found a few more attempts on Kieran. He's right on the gearbox of him right now. He is desperate to make it a Williams, Alpine 1-2 right now. And you can see Kieran maybe struggling a little bit. Yarham doesn't care that Kieran has a penalty. He wants to make sure he can close up to his teammate Finley, closing up as well, and it will help Alpine in the constructors as well. Casper is in as well. I wonder if he's going to do the same strategy as Ewan, or I wonder if he's got a front wing change. He's doing the same strategy as Ewan, going on to the hard tyres. I like these brave calls, I really do. There's something that could work. No safety cars as well, so you can rely on, obviously, getting those tyres to the end. And it's all about Casper and Ewan not making mistakes. Plus, they got some clear air for the next couple of laps. Saying that, I spoke too soon. Ewan and Casper are both in a fight now.
Yeah, Ewan, I think, is going to get the better run, though, of course, and Casper's still got to warm his tyres up, so Ewan is through, back ahead of the McLaren. Luckily for him, he was able to get those tyres up to temperature fast enough to be able to still get past Casper when he came out the pit lane, of course. That is one thing to worry about around Monaco, is the tyre warm-up phase around this track coming out the pit lane. I think the reason as well that Ewan pitted that early is because he saw that if he waited any longer, he would have come out behind Tet 31, his teammate. He would have come out behind the AlphaTauri of his teammate, and of course, that is the last thing he wants, is to come out of a bunch of traffic and pit straight into more traffic. So Ewan's obviously come in just to cover that off, and the hards should get to the end of the race, no problem. They will obviously lack a little bit of pace at the end of the race, but of course, like we've already seen, it is very difficult to overtake here, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem to manage, especially if Ewan can get a little bit further up the road now that he's not got Waitsy directly in front of him. He's got an opportunity now to pull back away from Casper again. So yeah, I think Ewan did that purely to cover off his teammate, to make sure that he wasn't in any more traffic. Casper's obviously recognised that and done exactly the same. GMAC has not, though, so GMAC running a bit of a risk here by going a little bit longer on these mediums, of coming up behind Tet 31, who also technically doesn't have to pit again in this race to Tet 31. It's a tall order to get those hards to the end of the race, having to do 37 laps on a set of hard compound tyres, but it's not impossible. So if GMAC leaves it too long and comes up behind Tet 31, that is still technically for position. So GMAC's got to be a little bit careful there of when he decides to come into the pit lane, of when he decides to do that. So that's going to be one thing to note. Another thing to note is Finley's lead is now 8 seconds as he continues to pull away from Kieran. Yarham is right behind, and Twisted is closing in. So Twisted is starting to up the pace on those hards. Waitsy is also upping his pace a little bit on the hards as well, and has dropped GMAC 2 seconds behind. So yeah, the hards are starting to come into play. They're becoming the better tyre. If I'm Yarham, I pit now, surely, because you can tell he is just getting held up massively behind Kieran, and he doesn't want to be there anymore. He's surely got to come in sooner rather than later. The only problem, of course, if he does try in the undercut, he will come out behind that train of GMAC, Cam and Mata, and Cam and Mata are not going to be pitting for a long time. So does he take the risk and pit early and try and beat Kieran on the pit stop, or does he go longer and hope that he can pit and not come out behind Cam and Mata and be held up later on?
He's going to lose a lot of time just being stuck there. So I hate to admit it, but I agree with you. I think he should go into the pits, because he's not showing his true pace with him obviously being behind Kieran at the moment. So unless he can get a move done on Kieran in the next lap or two, then it's not going to happen at the moment. And it's just bringing Twisted in. It's also helping Finley increase that gap as well. So, and you can tell the mediums are starting to die a little bit. It can last quite a bit around this track. It can last about 18, 19 laps, give or take, maybe a bit more if you can manage your tyres very well. But you don't want to be on the track that long on the mediums. Ideally, hards will be the way to go very, very soon, as is Yarham going to come in? He's not, but Kieran comes in. So he's going to get some clear air at least, but we will actually get to see the true pace of Yarham now over Twisted. But it may be too little too late, because the mediums could start to die sooner before you know it. I'm not surprised Kieran is going, to be honest. He lost a chunk of time on those mediums. Maybe he'll do a lot better on the hard tyres. We can see Ewan, Casper and Tet 31 racing starting to get in to the start-finish straight now, as Kieran gets towards turn number 1. They can't cut the pin lane exit, otherwise the game would penalise them quite badly. But Kieran does get ahead of this leading, this midfield bunch of Ewan, Casper and Tech, which is probably something that Kieran is relieved about. But again, he's got to call his tyres. It does take a long time around this track, especially because it is at night time. And Yarham being held up behind Kieran a couple of laps ago has definitely hindered him right now, because Twisted is still over on the back of him, and I won't be surprised if Twisted goes for the move.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised. I think Yarham's got to pit immediately as well, because obviously Kieran will be warming his tyres up. Another reason why Yarham has got to pit, that gap between Kieran and Ewan was not 9/10 before the pit stop phase. Ewan was a good 4 places behind, and maybe 6.
Twisted had a lock up into Raskas.
It looks like he's got away with it. I don't know if he hit anything.
No, he didn't hit anything. Happened. He just had a lock up.
Okay, so we got away with it. So he's a bit lucky in that sense. But yeah, into the pit lane does come Yarham and GMAC as well. They're both into the pit lane. But as I was saying, Yarham got to get the move, got to get in now, because Juan has actually almost performed a 7-second undercut in 4 laps on Kieran. That is massive. As here comes Yarham out of the pit lane. He's back behind Kieran again as he comes through turn number 1. Comes out of the pit lane. He is just ahead of Juan on the road. Juan, though, is going to have the warmer tyres. Yarham's going to have to be a little bit alert here to make sure he doesn't lose a place on the road. Is Juan going to be able to maybe put a move into Mirabeau? Can he get down the inside and get a run into Mirabeau? It's not quite close enough. It's going to be a late move on the brakes, and there's not the room to do it. But Yarham lucky there to come out ahead of Juan, because that in 4 laps, that is a huge undercut that Juan and Casper almost put on Yarham and Kieran, who were 4 places and 7 seconds up the road before the pit stop phase.
Yeah, I have to say, Yarham has probably made his bed and lied in it at the moment, because Kieran is now ahead again, but by a much more comfortable margin, Kieran, at the moment. So, and Yarham's got a 3-second penalty as well, so that is adding to his woes right there. And I was saying at the beginning of the stream, it's all well and good being fast, but the strategy and consistency is what's going to help you win races and avoiding collisions. And Yarham's doing well with the avoiding collisions bit, but he's not doing well with his consistency at the moment. And strategy. His strategy, to be honest, wasn't that great. But maybe he's got pretty much the next phase of the race just to focus, warm his tyres up, make sure that he can clear Ewan and Casper, and then catch up to Kieran once again. But you can see that Kieran is already clear of Yarham and pulling away. So maybe Kieran is faring a little bit on harder tyres, or maybe his tyre pressures are a bit high, so maybe he's good at the first stage of a heat cycle, but then later on in the race he's going to struggle a bit more as well. But there we go. Twisted, on the other hand, he's going to go on for a very long time on these hards. Same with Ratesy, Cam and Matter, so they can go on for as long as they want. Finley, well, he's coming into the pits now. If I was Finley, because he has the pace advantage and the consistency, he can pit whenever he wants, and he can still come out in the net race lead. So he comes in onto these hard tyres, and he's been faultless all race. He's led every single lap. Obviously, he's not going to lead a lap from this point, so obviously Twisted will come out as your race leader because he's still yet to box. But yeah, Finley, brilliant job on his first stint. Haven't followed him much at the moment, but he's going to try and make sure he gets into clear air, but he's not. He's going to lose a chunk of time there. It may not help him in the short term, but once he gets past these guys, he's going to blitz the rest of the field.
Yeah, definitely is, but that is the last thing Finley wanted, just to come out right in the middle of this pack now, and Matt are thinking about a move, but not going to be close enough. Yeah, Finley, I think ideally Finley needed to pit maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 laps ago, so that he maybe could have got ahead of this pack, because I think these pack of cars were starting to close back in on him again as his tyres were wearing out. So I think Finley should have pitted maybe 3 or 4 laps ago and secured the spot ahead of this group of cars, because that would have pretty much solidified a perfectly easy win. The problem now is if he does get stuck behind Waitsy and Cam for too long, that gives Kieran and Johan an opportunity to close back in the time again. But of course, they do have 3-second penalties. But it's not out of the question that Finley could get a 3-second penalty, or maybe more than that. So yeah, a bit of a risk by pitting that late and doing this strategy, but he's obviously still got the pace at the moment as well. He also needs to make sure that if he does get stuck in this train, that they don't lose too much time to Twisted. If Twisted can keep pulling away from this train and Finley can't go anywhere, that is an opportunity for Twisted to come back at Finley later on in this race on a fresher set of mediums. So not ideal for Finley, but not the end of the world as of yet. It just kind of depends on what the pace of this train is. And at the moment, the pace of this train isn't horrendous. They're maybe about half a second a lap slower than Twisted, but yeah, they've just got to keep an eye on the gap to Kieran behind, and Kieran behind is closing in on these guys very, very quickly.
He is. I think quite a lot of drivers are still in that train, even though they're boxed. So the ones who are still yet to stop have really got to get the hammer down, making sure they can have these consistent lap times. Oh, it's Finley. That was close from Finley. I think I caught on the corner of my eye that he may have hit the back of Cam, but hopefully none of them have got any damage from that, and that would have costed Finley so much. And if that's the case, would that be the bottle that he wasn't looking for? And Cam is lagging on my end, which is not helping at all. Luckily, Finley gets past Cam, so that's a relief. But he seems to like disappear and reappear after all of a sudden as well. So I'll be scared if I was Matter. But there we go. That was a little bit too close for comfort for Finley, but he's lost a chunk of time there as well, where he obviously could have pitted earlier, and he's starting to make mistakes now because he's not in clear air. He had the benefit of clear air earlier because he was leading the race. Now he's got to get past this traffic. It's going to be much more difficult for him, but we know that with Waitsy at least, Waitsy is a clean driver. He would not mess anybody around that's on a different strategy than him. He'll probably let him through or something because it's not their battle at the moment. Plus Waitsy has got a 3-second time penalty. So Twisted is now 4.9 seconds clear of Waitsy at the moment, and Finley should get him in maybe the next lap. Again, it's very, very hard to overtake. We don't want to see a situation where we seen our lap cars in the past in Monaco trying to get past, and the lead lap cars have got damaged because of it. We don't want to see that, but we'll see what we can do. Finley then, down the tunnel, not going to go for it here as well, but he's now starting to burn this ERS. If I was Twisted, I would probably have an ear of what's going on behind him, and he would probably be using a bit of his ERS. He cut the corner a little bit there. He's probably got a warning. Use a little bit of his ERS, tries to increase the gap a little bit to make sure that he can close in on Finley on the final laps on those medium tyres. But he's dropped the gap a little bit. Waitsy and Finley are catching. It might be Twisted as a oversteery setup, I think, on tyre wear potentially.
Yeah, I'm just riding on board with Twisted. I think there is some front wing damage on this Williams that is not fully visible, because the gap's now down to 3.7 between him and Waitsy. He was 1.3 seconds off his personal best on the previous lap, and that car is understeering a lot. It wasn't earlier on, it is now. Yeah, 4/10 down in the first sector. There is some damage on that Williams that we can't see. Whether it is front wing, maybe he's hit another part of the car on a wall somewhere, I'm not sure. But yeah, Twisted has got some damage on that car, and it is slowing him down big time at the moment. So Twisted, from a comfortable position on the alternate strategy, is potentially throwing away a good result here with this damage. If he loses too much time and then has to replace the front wing in the pit stop phase, that could put him, well, realistically, with that long pit stop, that would put him last if he pitted now, as here comes Finley down the inside of Waitsy, a much easier move than the one on Cam earlier on. He is through, but he does get a 3-second penalty for cutting the corner. But honestly, for Finley, with Twisted's damage now, I think that is perfectly fine for Finley, because he has got such a pace advantage and now a track position advantage over the people on the same strategy as him. He has got 3 cars between himself and Kieran. I think Finley here has got, as long as he keeps it out of the wall, Finley's got this one in the bag, even with that penalty. And yeah, Twisted's damage now is just going to make him a sitting duck, and he's just going to fall further and further away from this field now. And also, another thing to note as well, after the pit stop phase, one thing I mentioned was GMAT left it a bit late, and he could come out behind Tet 31. That is exactly what has happened. He is right behind Tet 31. He is half a second behind, but Tet 31's old hard compound tyres are showing their age, and he's now dropped to 7 seconds behind Juin. And speaking of Juin, speaking of Juin has dropped it coming out of Sandoval. Oof. Lucky he's ghosted, but he spun the car back around again. He's down into 11th. He doesn't seem to have any damage, so just suggests to me that Juin's just obviously pitted with the power too early coming out of the first quarter and spun it all on his own.
Yeah, he lost a bit of ground through there as well. I think maybe that he's been on those hards for 11 laps now. Maybe he's starting to overheat a little bit again. Tyre pressures, you don't want to be running them too high around Monaco. All the way to the left on most circuits, I would say, in the dry. If you run it too high, then that's probably why it can send yourself into a spin. We're on lap 21 of 39. Twisted's still leading, but again, he's yet to start. But Finley is still catching him up like no tomorrow. So, oh, that was quite tight. Finley through Raskas. Jesus Christ, there. That could have been disaster for both cars, but they both got away unscathed. Finley's got a time penalty for that. Is that 3 seconds? Yeah, that's 3 seconds.
That's from earlier, yeah. Yeah, that's from earlier. But
that's
yeah,
from earlier. Oh, I didn't notice that. My bad.
Yeah, that was from earlier, but I think Twisted was obviously braking early to make sure he had the inside line so he could come into the pit lane, but it caught Finley so off guard that he nearly ran completely into the back of him from half a second back. And that front wing replacement and that damage has put Twisted now behind Matter on the road, and they're on the same strategy. So that damage from Twisted has cost him big time. He's gone from being the lead person on this strategy to now to potentially being last on this strategy. He is now last on the road as here goes GMAC for a move down the inside of Tet 31. That's a lovely move from GMAC down the inside of Mirabeau. Not often you see overtakes on the road. And Tet 31, no idea what Tet 31 is doing there, trying to come back down the inside of the low hairpin. That is never going to work in modern Formula 1 cars. The cars are too big to pull that off now. GMAC holds the move. He is through into 7th with a lovely move at Mirabeau. So, yeah, lovely stuff for them to do. Nice clean move here at Monaco. Not often you see that.
Yeah, I have to say, move of the race so far, I have to say. GMAC likes taking risks, and he is a driver that I think is well liked in the VSL community. Everyone, I think, highly rates him due to his battles on track, as Waitsy has gone into the pits. So he's boxed again. He's been on those tyres for quite a bit, so I wonder if he's going to go on to some fresh mediums. Everyone should have at least 2 sets of the medium tyre. So there he goes, in out of the pit lane. And don't forget, everyone will score a point if they finish, because we only have 11 drivers and top 12 score points. So he's going to drop a little bit behind Matter, it looks like, or will he be just ahead? He's going to be just ahead of Matter, so he was very lucky there, but Matter could have the straight line speed and the tyre advantage very, very soon, and maybe that did not help Waitsy in the slightest. Only other person still yet to pit is Cam in second place, and he's 5.4 seconds behind Finley, so he's got to get past soon as well. And there's one person that's trying to get past desperately, and that is Kieran. As soon as Kieran gets past Cam, he can chase it on for Finley, and I believe they both have the same penalty, so it would be for track position as well. Top 4 have all got penalties, and if there was a safety car that would dramatically change things, anyone with penalties will be screwed. But like you were saying earlier, safety cars don't tend to come out on this game, as we got Cam, who's into the pits. So I believe, if I'm not too mistaken, that's everyone that's done at least one stop. Tech may need to come into the pits again. He'll probably go on to Sauce, but everybody else should realistically get to the end of the race. But who's going to win? Kieran's got that free air now. Can he use that to his advantage and close up on Finley? Or does Finley have the pace advantage around there?
I think you've got to say Finley has the pace advantage, but yeah, Cam out of the pit lane now, and Cam with that late pit stop, he's now down to last place. This is very unlike Williams. They're currently the last 2 drivers on the road. Usually we're used to seeing them being the first 2 on the road, but they're now at the back just with his damage. Cam just not had the pace tonight even, and obviously qualifying at the back, obviously not helping with that penalty. Is we've now got interesting tactics from AlphaTauri. Juan was let through by Tet 31, so Tet 31's let his teammate back through after that spin earlier on for Juan. So I think now Tet 31's going to try and act as a rear gunner for Juan to hold back the medium runners as much as he can. This is going to get very interesting, so... Excuse me. Oh, my word. I sneezed in the middle of my sentence. That one caught me off guard completely. But yeah, Waitsy now has got the task of trying to get past Tet 31. And we know that Tet 31 is definitely an aggressive driver, to say the least. He's definitely one that leans to more on the aggressive side. So Waitsy here, first driver on the medium compound tyres, has got a big task getting through Tet 31 on 21 lap-old hards.
Yeah, and we have seen Ayrton Senna trying to pretty much the king. Oh, wait, he's made a mistake. Never mind. We've seen Ayrton Senna being the king of Monaco. He's won the most around this circuit. 4 poles to his name, 6 wins. And he has the tyre management of a legend. He could make his old hard tyres back in the day, if there were hard tyres, last longer than anything and still being able to battle. He had a nice battle with Nigel Mansell back in 1992 as well, being one of them being on older tyres, one of them being on newer tyres, as Waitsy's now dropped to the back of the field, as Matter is now chasing down Tet 31, as Cam losing a bit of ground as well. Twisted is struggling again. He's ghosted and lost, I think, a bit of damage again as well. Again, it might be damage we can't see. It might be rear wing damage that he's got on his Williams car. Both Williams down in 9th and 10th, as you were saying, not good in the constructors whatsoever. They were looking to decide the constructors this week, but it may not be at the moment, as Tech tries to defend for Matter, which he does, up to 7th, and Matter still closing in 8th position. This is interesting fight, to say the least, between Tech 31 Racing Massa and Cam, because many points can make all the difference, even though it may be a few points extra than obviously what Twisted and Waitsy can get. But hanging past Angelinos and heading towards the final corner. Here comes Massa, one of the only places you can overtake around this circuit. Here he goes, and into turn number 1, in through into Zandvoort. Nicely moved from Mata, and my words just didn't make sense then, but up to 7th, and Cam is lagging for me again on my screen, which is not ideal, but yeah, Mata seems to be on the groove with those medium tyres. How long will it last though? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, definitely remains to be seen. Yeah, Cam for me as well just completely lagged through Tech 31 rather than passing him, so that's lucky for Cam. But Cam, I think, is not going to be in the best books with his teammate, because on the previous lap, Cam decided to dive Twisted into Mirabeau. It caught Twisted completely off guard, and Twisted was almost put in the wall by his teammate, which is why there was a little bit of a kerfuffle between the two Williams cars. And now Tech 31 under pressure from Twisted on the run down towards the Nouvelle Chicane. He's going to have to go round the outside to get this move done. Surely Tech 31 can't keep it there. He's going to force him off the road. He's going to force the Williams off the road, and the Williams picks up a penalty. And Tech 31 still trying to hold it down the inside into the back. One of them's got to back out. Twisted has to back out in the end, and Tech 31 holds the place. But yeah, Tech 31 on very old tyres is putting up an aggressive defence to try and hold back these medium runners, even if the medium runners are so much faster at this point in the race. So Matta's through into 7th. He's got no penalties either, so he can chase down Juan and get that one on penalties pretty easily. It's whether he can get past Juan and after GMAC. I think realistically for the medium runners, considering where they came out of the pit lane, you've got to say is, oh, Twisted and Tech 31 fight again, and this time around Twisted is in the wall. When here comes Waitsy trying to get the move done back up into 10th place. Can he get past? Yes, he can. He just about seats in front of the Williams, but Twisted getting a little bit frustrated. I think you can tell now, getting a bit frustrated, and Tech 31 is getting very aggressive in his defence, as we have seen many a time this season. As Twisted is outbroken himself.
In the wall!
Yeah, he's Twisted outbreaks himself into Mirabeau, slams into the back of Waitsy and puts Waitsy in the wall, and Waitsy's lost his front wing, and that is pretty much Waitsy's race over and done with.
I think it is at the moment. He's going to be a rocket on the straights at least, but in the corners he's going to struggle a bit more. So yeah, if I was him, I would keep going. Maybe go on a set of soft tyres, try and go the fastest lap really, because I think that's really what you're going to gain. To be honest, you're probably not going to gain that much positions otherwise, but we'll see. Other notable mentions of drivers doing well. There's one driver that's kept out of trouble for this part of the race at least. Casper. He's pretty much avoided what's happened to the likes of Ewan, Twisted, Waitsy, Mata, Cam, and he's kept his nose clean as well. GMAC as well, 5th as well. So those two mind their own business. And Casper could look like he could get a podium from this, because don't forget Yarham has got a 3-second penalty to his name. So does Kieran. So Casper could jump up to 2nd overall because of this, and he could have a fight for the podium on track. This is what we like to see. I like to call Casper a Monaco merchant. The reason why, he's won a lot of Monaco races. A, when I've commentated on him, and B, when I raced against him. But when I raced against him, he's lapped me twice. So he is a quick driver around there. Not necessarily quick in the race in quali on this game, but in the race, he's rapid, so maybe he can come into play to get 2nd on track potentially as well, which is great to see. So, yeah, one person we haven't spoken much of, doing a decent job out there.
Yeah, doing a decent job, like you say, and I think Kieran here playing a little bit of the team game. He's kind of backing up a little bit. He's not using any ERS. He's not pushing. He knows that Yarham can't really pass him without making a very risky move. And what that is doing is it's backing him up into his teammate and securing a double podium for McLaren. So manufacturers-wise, this is great team play here from Kieran if he is deliberately holding Yarham back, which at this point in the race, I think he is doing, showing that Yarham is out of ERS trying to fight, and Kieran has almost a full bank of ERS in front. So yeah, good team play there from Kieran to hold back to allow Casper to get close. The only problem for Kieran is he can't afford to hold back too much, because if he starts getting a little bit lazy or starts not really concentrating, he could either get overtaken by Yarham, or they could back up so much that GMAC could come into the equation and steal a podium off of him. So don't count out GMAC just yet. He has got fresher tyres than pretty much everybody in front of him. He's on the same lap of tyres as Yarham. He's got 4 lap fresher tyres than Casper, 1 lap fresher than Kieran. And in free air, GMAC has got every opportunity to still close in within penalty range of the people in 2nd and 3rd, as we've got another yellow flag. And I think that may be for Twisted. Yes, it is. Twisted has let Waitsy through. So that's good sportsmanship there from Twisted to let Waitsy back through and give him the place on the road. But yeah, the last thing our championship leader needed to do was get frustrated in today's race. It's so easy to get frustrated in Monaco because it's difficult to overtake. It's the last thing he needed to do. He had such a massive championship lead. He didn't need to take the risk. He took the risk. It's not paid off. He's down into 11th. And by the way, Cam has also pitted at the same time. I think he potentially damaged his front wing, but he's coming for a set of softs, and he's still in P8. So in the end, not really anything lost for Cam in the end. He's still P8, but that has given Mata a comfortable 7th. As Mata's now on the back of Juan, trying to find a way through for P6. Can he set himself up for a run up towards Casino? He's got a great run out of the corner. Juan's not got a lot of straight line speed. Mata's going to try and go for the inside line. Can he get down the inside? The AlphaTauri is a risky move, but he's got the grip in the middle of the corner, and he pulls the move off. Lovely move for Mata. He is through and up into 6th. Don't count him out yet for this battle in the top 3 either. If he can get close to GMAC and past GMAC, he's got every opportunity to still close in on the top 3 as well.
I think he's the only driver on those medium tyres that's absolutely driving like a rocket ship and keeping consistent. So he's doing absolutely fantastic. Don't forget, he's not set a lap in the qualifying. He's started at the back of the grid. He started 11th and he's now up to 6th place. So if he keeps this up, he will be my contention driver of the day. And one thing to mention about deltas around this track, medium tyres are around about 6/10 quicker than the hards. So don't forget the hards are starting to getting close to their sell-by date. Well, not yet, but it is starting to get close to being less optimal than the mediums. So Mata, all he's got to do is pretty much try and get past GMAP potentially, and then he can close in on Casper, but it may be harder than it seems right now due to penalties. But again, we have to wait and see. Gap now to the leader, 15 seconds. By the way, just to put it into perspective, almost a full pit stop ahead of his rivals. So even if Finley pits again, he could go on softs and still come out in the lead. I might be wrong, but I will check the pit lane lost time in just a second just to be sure of it. But even that is not going to be that long before he's going to be in pit stop place. But if I was him, I would stay out because you don't really want to risk it around a track like this because he found it hard to get past traffic in the first place. So if I was him, stay out, have that comfortable victory. I know fastest lap is worth 2 extra points, but you would rather have 25 points than maybe none at all. 17.5 seconds, by the way, to pit lane loss. So he needs to gain 3 seconds, and he's gained a full pit stop on his rivals.
Yeah, that is a mega performance so far from Finley. It reminds me of someone else that we watched at Monaco in a different league have a brilliant performance. I believe in an Alpine on that day. So something about being in an Alpine around Monaco seems to work pretty well. So maybe a precursor to what happens this year in Monaco. We'll wait and see. I wouldn't be too disappointed at that. But yeah, Finley doing a brilliant job. If he can get the gap out comfortably to about 20 seconds, he could feasibly pit, come in for a set of softs and go for the fastest lap and get the full house of points. So there's every opportunity for Finley, but he doesn't need to take the risk. He's not in the championship fight. He doesn't need that extra point, really. So this could just be a glory run for Finley to the end in keeping it safe. I mean, on that last lap, he was 2.3 seconds off his personal best and still pulled away at the front of the field. So he is just cruising at this point in the race. Is Finley not pushing at all, not pushing the limits. One person who is Mata. He's closing in very quickly on GMAC. He passed you in, a lap ago? It's now 4.5 seconds.
Wow.
On Juan. So Mata absolutely flying. He's halved the gap between himself and GMAC in one lap. He's 2 seconds a lap faster than GMAC. So if he can catch and pass GMAC pretty swiftly, he is 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap faster than this battle for second at the moment. So he has got just enough time left in this race. If he can get past GMAC in good time to catch and get within penalty range of Kieran and Yaham here. So it is not out of the question. He's just got to get through on GMAC pretty much within the next lap or two if he wants to pull that off. So we'll see whether he can do that. There's every opportunity he can, and we know GMAC's a fair racer. GMAC's not going to be someone who puts up a ridiculous defense against someone that he knows is much faster. GMAC doesn't take those kind of risks. So we'll see when Mata gets there, how GMAC wants to play it. But if I'm Mata, I'm wanting to get this moved on GMAC pretty quickly, because from kind of nowhere in this race, all of a sudden on this strategy, Mata has every opportunity of stealing a podium from this race.
Yeah, and all it takes for one driver's near the front to make a mistake, and boom, he's on the podium. And I have to say, he was the one who's taken, I think, more risks than anyone, but not been in the war as much. So it just goes to show how much experience he has had at VSL and in many other leagues as well in terms of racing. He knows, obviously, when to pick up a fight in terms of battles, or whether to just back off or anything like that. But I know he wants to push at the moment. He's within DRS range now of GMAT, so turn 1 could be his first opportunity to get past. But we have seen him make moves outside of turn 1 anyway, so it really doesn't matter where he makes a move. Matto's just probably going to go for it anyway. But I know GMAT's going to defend for his life, and this is going to be interesting to see for Matter. So start finish straight he goes. He only has 40% ERS, and I believe GMAT does not have any DRS at all. So you can see that GMAT is harvesting more than Matter, but he's going to be, I think, patient at the moment. But he's losing they're losing time as we like to Casper, so Matter has got to make the move ASAP. Otherwise, Matter's chance for a podium is long gone. But I don't think he's concentrating on that right now. He's a driver that just wants to have a bit of fun, and if he gets 6th, fair enough. If he gets 5th, fair enough. But ideally, he wants to go for 4th place right now. And yeah, I think he's going to be a little bit patient. One other driver that's also trying to go for a move is Casper on Yarham as well. 4/10 of the gap at the moment. Realistically, he could get 2nd, but he wants to go on the road surely. But he can't afford to take many risks around here due to the penalties.
Yeah, definitely can't afford to take a risk, but yeah, doing a brilliant job at the moment is Kieran in 2nd place now, pulling away from Yarham a little bit more, and is just basically Kieran's done a great team job here. He's backed Yarham up into Casper, and now that Casper's caught and is right there, he's starting to pull away again. So Kieran could still salvage 2nd in this race, but still give his teammate a podium. So that is very good team play if it works out like that. And yeah, you can clearly see on board with Matter, he is not taking any risks, but that is why Matter has been so successful all season long, is that he just takes everything race by race. He doesn't put a lot of practice in or put too much stress on himself. He just takes it as it is and doesn't take any risks and picks up whatever comes to him. And that is why he is currently 4th in the championship. So doing a brilliant job once again is Matter. He's of course only 8 points behind Yarham coming into this race. So he would, I'm sure, in his competitive spirit, he would dearly love to try and beat Yarham in this race. But at the moment, not looking likely now. But still, great job for Matter. Considering he started dead last, he's currently P6, and he's the only one that's made this alternate strategy work, because everybody else that was on the alternate strategy has crashed. So Matter's done a brilliant job, even if he does stay behind GMAT for the rest of the race. I'm sure he's not going to want to, and he is saving up a little bit of ERS now, so I think he's just going to wait a couple of laps, save a bit of ERS, and then when an opportunity comes, he has the ERS to use to be able to make the move easy.
Yeah, and it's good to be patient in the final few moments of the race, because like you were saying, 6th place is better than not finishing at all, and you do not want to be the only person to not finish a race as well. And we thought Matter was going to go for the move there past the swimming pool section, but he could go around the outside into Raskas, which he doesn't. He's right on the back of GMAT, so this could be the opportunity where he goes for it. You can tell that I think GMAT has got the setup designed for straight line, because in the corners, Matter's great. But in the straight line, Matter is struggling, so maybe GMAT is running lower wings compared to the likes of Matter potentially as well. But Matter is a little bit more stable in the corners. Twitter getting another penalty, adding more to his roads at Monaco, which is a bit of a shame. But he's still in the lead of the championship. He can't afford to take his foot off the pedal just yet. Maybe this is one of his off races, but if obviously Twisted keeps on performing like this in last spot, Cam may gain enough to potentially close up to win this championship, but at the moment it's looking unlikely. But anything can happen at VSL, lap 36 of 39. One more second for Finley, and then he'll be in pit stop range out of everybody as well. I believe he might have lapped certain drivers as well in this field, which is interesting. We're already on lap 37 of 39 now as Finley has crossed the line, so we'll see what he could do. I don't think he's going to go for fastest lap, because obviously Cam's on the soft tyres and we will start to see them die as well. Speaking of Tech 31 Racing, he's got Waitsy and Twisted behind him. Oh, what's gone on there?
Matter's just had a thought about a move into Raskas, tried to look down the inside and just slammed straight into the back of GMAT's car. Luckily, GMAT has got away with no damage, and Matter decided to back off and not make the move stick. So fair sportsmanship there, but I think Matter just trying a move that wasn't really on into Raskas, outbreaking himself and just tapping the back of the Mercedes. But luckily for both of them, they seem to have both gotten away with it.
They were very lucky indeed, not going to lie. I'm sure that I think both of them will try to apologise for that, knowing them. One of them will go, I'm sorry, and the other one will be like, no, it's not your fault, it's my fault, I might have broken too early or something. They're like me sometimes. When I think it's my fault, sometimes the other person says, oh, it's my fault. I don't know. I always like to admit defeat sometimes if I think I caused an incident. But anyway, Twisted has gone into the pits for a set of the soft tyres. Yellow flag. That is Tech that's binned it.
Tech and Waitsy have come together. So Waitsy was trying to go for the move around the outside, and obviously the left-hand side wall kind of dips in a little bit before the break in the exit of the braking zone for Saint Devot. Tech 31's obviously not accounting for that and put Waitsy in the wall. They both missed the corner. So Waitsy now trying to come back through on Tech 31, who I think has got some other damage on that AlphaTauri that we can't see because his pace has dropped off massively in the last few laps. But yeah, Waitsy just running into the AlphaTauri everywhere now because the AlphaTauri is putting up some defensive moves that, again, very questionable.
Yeah, I think he is starting to play a bit more risk now that are potentially not needed. There's some more yellow flags at the moment. I believe Twisted is being lapped by certain drivers. Yes, he's already been lapped already as Waitsy. Oh my goodness, that was close from those two. I think they're going to have some stern words, I think, at the end of this race. Not going to lie, I expect to see a DM from Waitsy as well saying about that, but we'll see. But we're about to approach the final lap of this Monaco Grand Prix. Finley still leads by 15.5 seconds. We still could have a fight for the podium, but Mata probably can't get past GMAT, and I think Casper's probably content to stay behind these guys. But I think at the moment, Casper's going to be third and Kieran's going to be second. So I don't think Casper's fighting too much to get past Kieran on penalties. I think he's just going to try and stay on the pace of the Arham, and he should be fine. Lap 39 of 39 then. Finley then. We'll watch him going past Casino Square. He's got to get past lap cars, but surely that won't be too much of an issue at the moment. Gap now 1.2 to Casper as well. And I have to say, Kieran has not put a foot wrong either. I think he'll be happy with his result tonight because he doesn't mind Monaco one bit. But the only time Philly has not led a lap was obviously when he went into the pits and trying to get past people that are not pitted yet. So he has driven faultless throughout this race, hardly any damage at all. And even if it is damage, it doesn't matter because his pace has been strong anyway. Heading towards Tabat for the final time then. And then heading past the barriers for the final time. He's probably going to be relieved to not hit that. Through to the swimming pool chicane as well. If he's got no warnings for his name, he could afford to cut some parts of the circuit. Heading towards Rascats and to Antino's for the final time. Finley has taken his first win in the league, and he wins at Monaco, the place where everybody wants to win. Fantastic for Finley by 15 seconds. Kieran is going to come across the line in second, but I believe he will remain second due to the gap between himself and Casper. But great job for him, unless Kieran has got 6 seconds that we do not know about. Yarham will across the line in third. Oh, Casper second. So Kieran must have picked it. Yeah, Kieran has got 6 seconds. Okay. 17 thousandths was the difference between Yarham and Kieran. So it must be near the end of the race where we got that. GMAT comes across the line in 5th. Matter 6th. Ewan on 29 lap or hards. Fair play to him. He is in 7th. Casper is purple sets 2 at the moment. He's going to go for fastest lap compared to his rivals. The only other person who was on for fast lap was Twisted. And has he got fastest lap? Nope, he does not. So Cam doesn't need to push that much. The fastest lap belongs to him anyway, and he gets an extra bonus point at 111.4, so he's improved even more. And that just leaves Tech 31 racing the last person on the lead lap to finish this race.
Yeah, last person to finish, by the way, to cap off what was an awful race for Twisted. I don't think he recognised that he was a lap down because he pitted for a second time onto a fresh set of softs on his lap 38, not recognising that Finley was on lap 39. So by the time he got round to the start-finish line to start a run for the fastest lap, his race ended because he was a lap down. So I think, and he was already on a fresh set of softs about to start a fast run there. So Twisted has obviously pitted trying to get the freshest tyres for the final lap, not recognising that he wouldn't be able to complete the final lap because he's a lap down.
Yeah, so here comes the Alpine driver of Finley. Well, coming into this race, I wouldn't have predicted Finley to win this race. I would have predicted Twisted again, but it's nice to have a surprise winner. We had a nice winner on Monday. We have a nice winner on Wednesday. So 2 nice winners in a row that we weren't expecting. That's good to see. Can we get a third next Monday? We'll see. But we got 2 Alpines on the podium. For the last few seasons, Alpine had done rubbish because obviously I kept cursing them. But obviously, now they're doing well. I'm not talking about them too much, and they're doing good. So there we go. We've got McLaren in second, that is Kieran. We'll go through your results in just a minute. So Finley from first to first. He wins the race despite his penalty. Casper comes across the line in second. No penalties to his name. And doing a brilliant job as well. He'll be happy with that. Yarham gets the final spot on the podium. Kieran in fourth. GMAT from 8th to 5th. He's had a good race. Mata from last to 6th. He gets one of my driver of the days for sure due to the moves that he has made. Ewan from 6th to 7th. Cam from 10th to 8th. Tet 31 from 3rd to 9th, so he's had a horrific race. Waitsy from 7th to 10th, and Twisted from 4th to 11th, so he's in last place. But in Monaco, everyone has finished. Only 2 drivers were a lap down, but that's to be expected around here anyway. But quite a few drivers today, Matta being one of them, Casper as well, and Finley. But obviously, you can't write off Finley. Finley has done an amazing job today, but there's certain other drivers that did a great job too.
Yeah, Finley did a brilliant job. It was just kind of, I think, once we saw the qualifying performance, I think it was kind of dead set for Finley, wasn't it? As long as he kept it out the barriers, he had the pace tonight, and he pulled off a brilliant drive. That was a really dominant drive from Finley, so amazing stuff from him. And yeah, he's definitely one of the driver of the day candidates. I think I'm going to give my other one though to Casper. I think pretty faultless race from him. Obviously, starting 9th on the kind of the regular strategy is not the ideal strategy to go for, but kept it clean the whole race. And kept it penalty free as well, which played crucial at the end of the race. Ended up picking up 2nd. Brilliant drive from Casper from 9th on the grid. And it's crazy to think as well that around a track like Monaco, we always talk about track position and it being difficult to overtake. With only 11 drivers in the field, Finley was the only driver to finish where he started. Everybody else finished in a completely different position. It wasn't like people just went up one place and down one place. People were all over the shot. So yeah, very topsy-turvy race as you come to expect in Monaco. But yeah, it's definitely our top 2, Finley and Casper. 2 brilliant drives from both of them today. Amazing stuff. Finley for one reason, for dominating from the front, and Casper from recovering from a bad quali. So yeah, brilliant stuff from both of those drivers today. But on the flip side, not great for our 2 championship leaders, our 2 Williams drivers. Obviously Cam never getting a shot in quali and not really being able to go forwards in the race much more than that. I think P8 and the fastest lap, really the maximum you could get from 10th on the grid today. Didn't really look particularly fast all day long. And Twisted had the pace, had the track position, had a good strategy, but picked up damage midway through and kind of threw away what could have been a really good result, and probably would have put 1 hand and 4 fingers on that trophy if he hadn't have made that mistake, because he would have been comfortably ahead of his teammates. So yeah, I think I think Twisted will be gutted with that. He obviously will be quite frustrated with how that one went, but yeah, still plenty to fight for. It's not as if he ended up finishing out of the points and Cam won and completely slashed his lead, but obviously not what Twisted would have wanted tonight. Yeah,
because a maximum, I think, is 37 points you can get in the sprint race in round number 12, which is why obviously we don't calculate. Obviously, if it was no sprint, I think Twisted would have won the championship anyway. But since there is a sprint, that's probably why the championship is still in hand for Cam. But Cam, I think, will take as a consolation prize that he finished ahead of Twisted today, and but still not a good race for him. He's got fast lap points anyway, so surely it won't be that bad. But next week, we head to the Circuit of the Americas. We were in Miami at round number 3. We head to Kona for round number 11 as well. Pretty much a favourite in terms of commentary as well. I absolutely love commentating around this track. It's also a fan favourite as well. You always guarantee there's going to be a lot of battles there.
Yeah, you can always guarantee there's going to be a lot of battles. It's a difficult track on track limits as well. Tyre management, again, another factor like it has been today. So definitely a very interesting circuit. Great racing, so many overtaking opportunities, especially in the middle to the end of the lap. There's a lot of opportunities there. It is a great one. I don't personally enjoy driving it. I don't love driving the circuit, but commentating it, absolutely adore commentating Koto. It's always a great race. So yeah, definitely going to be very interesting next time out. It's going to be very different to what we saw tonight, and we could again see a completely different result once again.
Maybe we could see a different winner. Maybe we could see Twisted being back on form. Maybe we could see Cam being on form. We'll have to wait and see. But without further ado, let's wrap up the stream there. Thank you guys so much for watching this stream. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you check us out on YouTube and subscribe if you haven't already to find out when we go live. Hit that bell as well to be notified. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at VSL_F1 so you could be notified about the standings, maybe possible penalties, as well as find out what the other drivers are doing. Also join our Discord as well to get involved in the community, and also follow us on our socials as well. Our socials are at the bottom of the screen here, and check out our sponsor as well, PJR Designs. But thanks for listening. 2 more races to go. Twisted, without that mistake tonight, he could have been one hand on the trophy, but he's got a lot of work to do next week, but surely he has the upper hand. Can he win the title next week? We'll have to wait and see. We'll see you next week for the penultimate round of the season in Dakota. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.